Pat Robertson has some science that he'd like to share with us about gay people.
Crystal writes, I've been in church all my life with my family. We are not allowed to date. The only ones in my church that are married already knew their partners before coming into church. It is treated as a sin to show interest or have a mutual understanding in church with the opposite sex. Most of the people in the church are frustrated because we're getting older and no one is getting married. We pray about the issue, but it seems like it is bouncing back. What should I do?
You know, those who are homosexual will die out because they don't reproduce. You know, you have to have heterosexual sex to reproduce. Same thing with that church. It's doomed. It's going to die out because this is the most nonsensical thing I have heard in a long time. This is absurd. God has made us to be in families. God has created a desire of men and women to have attraction to the opposite sex so that they will reproduce and have children.
Okay, 2 points there. Well, first we'll go to the elephant in the room. Well, the gays will die out because they don't reproduce. What? That makes no sense. Because naturally occurring, as in nature, there's a certain percentage of the population that's going to be gay. There's a certain percentage of the population that's going to be bisexual as well. It's not like eventually, well, they can't have babies with each other, so therefore they're gonna die out. Well, then why haven't they already died out, Pat? He acts like everything in the world started right when he was born. Like there's nothing that happened before it. Humans have not been around very long at all. Well, if your reasoning is correct, why do they still exist right now? God, he's so stupid. And that, by the way, that's another important point here on the question of gay rights, is that oftentimes the argument is brought up, well, the reason we're against gay marriage is because it's unnatural. Okay, but again, it occurs in nature, so by definition, it is natural. That's the hard fact of reality. It's natural for whatever percentage it is of the population, 5% that's gay and, 10 or more percent that's bisexual, and when you add it all together, that percentage of the population roughly is always going to be of that sexual persuasion, and that's natural. So that's to say ban it because it's unnatural doesn't make any sense. If it was unnatural, it wouldn't occur in nature. It does. So that was out of nowhere. That made absolutely no sense, but that's a classic Pat Robertson moment because there's zero thinking that went into it. He's talking off of the cuff, and he's like, I think the gays is going to die out because they can't reproduce. Like, to him, that's a genius thought. Like, oh, gosh golly, I done figured it out. But the other thing, the other point to make about this was the bigger issue to the question and then his response. The woman says, my church won't allow, like, the boys and the girls to talk to each other. So now we're all older, none of us are married, and we're like, what the fuck? What's going on here? And Pat says, you know, that's pretty fucking draconian. Obviously, he doesn't use those words. But he's like, that's kind of crazy, and yeah, the church might die out because it has these backwards practices. On that point, he's actually right. Totally wrong about the gay thing, but right about that. That's a problem that religions are facing all around the world today, is that they're struck with this issue. Do I modernize and get more followers, or do I stick to my dogmatic doctrinaire principles, which are bullshit and stupid? And in different religions right now, you have different answers. I mean, you have, for example, the Catholic Church with Pope Francis. Remember, you have to remember, the popes of the past, all they did was drool on themselves and cover up toddler fucking. Maybe that's a little too harsh, but you get the point. They were very conservative. But now you have Pope Francis. This guy's fucking brokering deals for peace with Cuba and the U.S. He's talking about how gay people are awesome and atheists are awesome and all this stuff. And they're modernizing. Why? They're modernizing because they know either change or go away. It's the evolution of thought. It's the evolution of ideology. Our beliefs aren't tenable anymore. We can't go around hating everybody and wearing goofy dresses and saying stupid shit unless we also give people a reason to want to come to us and a reason to embrace the religion. So he's right on that bigger point, man. The more religions and churches and what have you, these different groups stick to outdated, backwards, insane principles and ideologies, the more irrelevant they become. Because history always is in a constant change and is constantly progressing for the better. It's like Martin Luther King Jr. said, the arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice. So get smarter or die off. That's the bottom line.